All right, so let me kick one to you first.
Okay.
Because I've always been fascinated about this when it comes to you and your brother Paul, because you guys are competitors and you operate the track.
Yes, yeah.
And I remember early in your careers, when I would say your dad was probably more actively in the day-to-day operations, and I thought that was an awesome idea, and I'm sure it still is an awesome idea, because you guys definitely have a perspective of a racer themselves, right?
Definitely.
You're in the trenches, in the pits every week.
Yep.
But then as you guys became elevated in the operations of the track, I always wondered, like, oh, is that going to be a conflict of interest? And it never really has seemed to be an issue. I mean, there's a couple sound bites that your brothers had on the mic during flow racing.
He doesn't hold back, that's for sure.
that I probably could take.
I hold back a lot more.
No, seriously, he gets pissed.
He gets fired up.
Yeah, he does.
But I've always been curious to how you guys have been able to manage that.
I mean, that's been one of the biggest challenges of, my life. I'd hate to say it like that, but I don't do anything else besides the racetrack, racing. Obviously, I have a great family now, growing family. But that was a challenge early in the years. My dad is still there every single day and everything. Me and my brother have taken on a lot more roles. But it's been challenging over these years from when I started in the dare stocks. And I had one good podium finish, and it turned to, it's because he's the track operator's son. So then I got thrown up into the limiteds. Then I ran there for quite a few years because I wasn't that good to begin with. But the moment you start succeeding, it was like, it's because he's the track. Jump up to the next division. So it's just, that's kind of how we portrayed it. And we've learned so much from it as being in the pit area, the expenses, operating a team, just being the competitor on that night. We've learned so much and changed from it as a business altogether. Yeah. But the biggest challenge was generally turned into if someone complained about, it's because of the track operator. David, time to go up to the next division. Is like the biggest one was probably SK Lights. I should have stayed one more year.
Yep.
But I almost was battling for the championship in my second year, and it was like, he gets more track time. Like the thought of, because we're there weekly, every day, I just roll my car out and go practice all the time.
Right, because you don't really have to make a living or anything.
I hate spending money. Like, that is the worst thing. This was the first year I actually rented the track. I still rent it. Like, I still pay part of it and all that.
Yeah.
A track rental, first time in probably 10 years I've ever done it.
Wow.
But that SK Light year was going for the championship, and people were complaining. It was like, okay, time for you to either move up to SKs, which was mind-boggling at the time, or jump to late models, because that was the next step up. So it was, that's how we portray it. When someone says loud enough, you can't do it anymore, you're cheating, it's like, all right, go up to the next division. Same thing with Paul. He went up to late models and battled there for a while, and now he's in SK Lights.
So I remember when we had Todd Owen here, he said that you are very hands-on with your car.
Yeah.
And I found that surprising, I guess, because I kind of thought, like, because you were in track operations, that you really was like, Todd will maintain it, and I'll see you on Fridays.
Well, I wish it was like that. That'd be awesome. I know my brother might be mad, but he's kind of like that. So I actually own his car. So I own 3 cars. I own my tour car. I own my tour car. I own my SK, and then the SK Light. And I'm very hands-on. I work on my car, own the car. Me and Alex Drab work on them every 2 nights a week, 3 nights a week, depending on what the work is that has to be done. I drive the trailer to the track, unload it. I'm pretty hands-on. Like, I can take apart the car and put it together myself. Yes, you need the help, and help's great, but I know where every nut and bolt is on that car. Where the going thought is, it's just someone else takes care of it and someone else shows up. Maybe in my younger days, when I was in the dare stocks, I was still in high school or college at the time. Yes, that was the case. I'd go down in the shop and wax the car. Like, I didn't know what was on the car.
Right.
I wasn't any good at racing then either. So it goes to show, like, you have to put in the effort. And that's just what my family business is, how I was always brought up, is put in the effort and the return will come.
Was racing an aspiration for you, or was it something like you guys wanted to take over the track someday and your dad said you got to be a racer first?
I don't think we were actually ever supposed to race. Like, there was no talking about us racing cars, even go-karts. Me and my brother got started when Wild Thing Karts was looking for a place to race after Poughkeepsie closed.
Yeah.
And they came down with Jesse Rocco, Frank Rocco's son. There was a Wild Thing kart and then a quarter midget, and they were testing on the mini mile. Me and Paul were very young at the time. We were just watching, didn't think anything of it. And Frank Rocco was like, "Oh, do you want to try?" I was like, "I guess we'll try it." And just from there it was boom.
Wow.
You have to race.
How old were you at that time?
That I probably would have been 12 or so.
Wow. And how old what's the difference with you and Paul?
We're 3 years different.
He's older, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so we got started in go-karts, and that was, we didn't take care of cars at the time because we didn't have any car knowledge. My dad was so heavily involved in the business, he didn't have time to work on cars, and Rick Casagrande took care of them for us. So Corey and Kyle, Corey's my age, Kyle's Paul's age, we had 4 go-karts, and our numbers were 13, 14, 15, 16, just for simple reasoning. Like, in order, we had 4 carts. It makes sense at the time, and I was so bad. It was just, I wrecked every single night. Carts were going home. I didn't belong out there, and it was looking like I wasn't going to race ever.
Yeah,
because of how bad I was.
So, what do you think are some of the biggest contributors to you going from that to somebody now that's having a lot of success?
Yeah, just the effort, like. Go-karters jump. I find it mind-boggling how people jump from go-karts or quarter midgets straight to SK lights.
Yeah.
Like the ladder system, like me and Paul have gone up the ladder system and gained so much racing knowledge from that, where when you jump up from a quarter midget, a go-kart, and straight into SK lights, I feel like you're just thrown into a pack of wolves, and it's like you're going to get spit out.
Yeah.
And it's not going to be for good. Maybe one guy will pop out in the good, but 5 are going to just quit racing because they just can't deal with the pressure.
Yeah,
they can't deal with not winning. Like, that's the biggest factor.
Right.
I feel like it's a norm now.
It's
such
crazy.
a normal, like, it's very rare, even at Stafford, when you see somebody that's graduated out of the Wild Thing carts winning a late model race.
No.
It doesn't, and they go right into.
They jump right into
into open wheels.
Yeah.
They skip.
Which I get it. They're awesome. They're they're a blast. You drove one. You've driven them before. They're the most fun you could have, I think.
Yeah,
I haven't
agree.
driven many other cars, but they're the most fun you could have, and I get why people want to get there. They want to be the top level. They want to be the next Ted Christopher. Like, you want to be that guy, and the best way to get there is as fast as possible, right? That's what the parents think, I guess. I'm not sure. But there's no more starting at this first division and working your way up, which is
Well, I think
crazy.
the only ones that they step to really are the legend cars.
Yeah.
So that's the only one that has fenders.
But even so, what about that kid at Seekonk that went from the Bandolero to the Pro Stocks?
Oh,
and was
goodness.
like battling for the lead a few times. What the hell is
Oh,
that kid's
yeah.
name? You remember what I'm saying?
Yes. Yep.
Bandolero to a freaking Pro Stock.
And he's really
impressive.
good.
Yeah, he was decent, right?
Yeah, he's good.
That's crazy.
It's impressive when people do that. For sure, I'm not saying it's not impressive. I'm impressed by it, but I just think it struggles where the divisions are lacking now because that ladder system isn't there. What is going to get that next guy into the start? I had to say starter division because now they're
I
all
think
race
what
cars.
what happens is when they move up the ladder like that, they never fully get to understand the car.
Yeah.
They don't understand what wedge is. They don't understand, like, hey, the panel bar's too high.
Yeah.
Right? Like, he could come in and say, you guys, somebody's got to put the panel bar down because it's way too high. Yeah. Right? You never get a chance to feel all that stuff.
Right.
So as I used to always say, when I say to Emma, we're racing, I say, Emma, you have to try to think as if you're your own crew chief. Feel the car. I don't care how fast we go.
Right.
I need you to tell me, Dad, it just really stinks right here. And then we will talk about it. But, same thing for Emma. We just went from bandos to trucks to late models. And I've always just handled it like most parents are for kids today. And they don't understand the few of the ones that do are like a Brody is totally into aero, springs.
Yeah.
He's totally into that stuff. He's just a nerd with all that stuff.
Yeah.
And he'll come in and look at the car. He says, Uncle James, the body is not right on this car at all. He is serious,
That's what people come up to me with that. I'm like, what are you looking at? Like,
Yeah.
How do you see this?
No,
Like,
seriously, they're just like, there's totally just eye in your car.
Yeah.
And guys do, like Jay Palmer, we were fast last week, and there's a rhyme or reason to everybody. He comes up and just, my car's on jack stands, and he's spinning my tire nonstop. Jay does everything for a reason.
Yeah.
And then I see him plucking the little tire stubs, and I know what he's doing. He's checking to see how much camber I have, how much the tire is rolling. He does all this stuff without you even noticing. He'll have a conversation, but the point of the story is He's totally in depth. He's totally in tune to everything that's happening. He could come rub my tire and almost know what the hell's happening. I believe that.
Before you know.
Right.
Before I know. But he's gone through the progressions.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So how long do you see yourself like you're gonna race as long as you're having fun? Like, is there?
That'd be awesome. As long as I'm having fun, that's the biggest thing. And I want to make sure everyone around me is having fun too. My crew, my family, right? I want to make sure everyone's having fun. Yes, I would like to do it for a long term. I mean, maybe I'll just keep my cars, and my son, when he's old enough, will do it. I mean, he's 1 year old now. That's gonna be a long time.
Right.
But my brother has 3 kids now. They're all boys, so we're gonna have race cars forever.
Yeah,
and
right.
It's in our blood. Like, that's all we do. We work at the Speedway. Our family is a racetrack. We race, and that's it. There's nothing else that we do.
Have you and your brother, like, have you always been in the racing business? Did you guys ever have real other jobs?
I sound bad saying this. I have never worked anywhere else. Never had, I hate to say, a real job.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's still a real job.
If you're having fun, it's not a real job.
We're
right.
there
If you
every
enjoy
day
it,
of the
I should
week,
say.
right?
Yeah.
I've been there since legally 16, right? But I've been picking up garbage since I was 10, sold programs. Didn't like selling programs because it was only 25 cents per program that I would get.
Yeah.
So instead I'd sell them off to like the novelty booth and then go watch the races instead. But my brother, like, he was into, like, he's like selling programs. He did all that stuff. And he went off to Boston and worked some different jobs there. Did probably 4 or 5 different jobs. He was a waiter, a busboy. He did what's it called when you give someone your keys to your car and
Valet.
He did valet driving. I'm like,
Yeah.
I've never done anything else. Like, that's correct. Speedway, and that's it. Like, I know the whole property. I know everything there.
Yeah.
And that's all I've ever done, and I'm fine with that.
Well, and I can say just by looking at the videos, which we'll get into more later, but like that's one thing I learned from watching your videos is just how much about that property that you know and or have to know in order to be successful.
There's a lot that is unknown still. Like, we were doing jobs this past couple of weeks. I'm like, what the heck is this? Like, we unburied something. I'm like, Dad, what is this? He goes, oh, I knew that was there. I'm like, no, you did not. That's a lie. Like, I told you like 10 years ago. I'm like, yeah, okay, like, whatever. But every day it's something new. But we have to know our property, right? That's what makes it what it is. We have to improve it every single time.